Welcome, life investigators, to an explainer that's literally going to change how you look at the world around you. Have you ever actually stopped to define what makes something alive? I mean, it sounds like a super simple question, right? But the deeper we dig, the more fascinating it gets. Today, we're cracking the code of life itself. So, let's dive right into this mystery. If you're trying to figure out if, say, a pet or a person is alive, you might just check to see if they're breathing, or maybe you'd feel for a heartbeat. Seems obvious. But hang on a second. Think about the trees outside your window or the grass in your yard. Plants definitely don't breathe air the exact same way we do, and they for sure don't have hearts beating inside their trunks. Yet they are absolutely 100% alive. So breathing and heartbeats, they just can't be the universal rule. Take a good look at the forest scene we've got here. Your very first challenge as an investigator is to mentally point to one living thing and one thing that has absolutely never been alive. Those brightly colored autumn trees? Yeah, definitely living. But what about the rocks buried in the dirt or the water flowing in the stream? Totally non-living. But how do scientists actually draw that exact line? What is the official checklist? Well, it all comes down to the 7 pillars of life. Think of this as your ultimate scientific checklist. Let's kick things off with pillar number 1, nutrition. In science terms, nutrition is just how organisms get the food they need to survive and thrive. I mean, you can't run a machine without fuel, and you certainly can't run a living organism without food. But how they actually get it, that can look wildly different depending on the organism. And the polar bears we're looking at here brilliantly illustrate the concept. Animals get their nutrition by actively eating things, in their case, meat. But remember those plants from the forest? They don't have mouths. Instead, they feed themselves using a process called photosynthesis. They are literally making their own food straight from sunlight. It's wild. Different methods, absolutely, but it's the exact same pillar, nutrition. But here's the thing, just eating or making food isn't quite enough. That brings us to our second pillar, respiration. Now listen up, because in middle school science, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. Respiration is not just a fancy word for breathing. Actually, respiration is a microscopic process where the food we just talked about is broken down inside the organism's cells to give it usable energy. So, the really crucial takeaway here is that whether you're a giant roaring polar bear, a tiny blade of grass, or, well, you watching this explainer right now, every single living cell in your body has to undergo respiration. It is basically the ultimate power plant operating on a cellular level, unlocking all that energy trapped inside the food. Moving right along to our third pillar, sensitivity. Being alive means you aren't just a rock completely ignoring the world. Living organisms can actually sense what's going on around them in their environment, and more importantly, they react to those changes. It is so cool seeing how this plays out in the wild. Consider the polar bear again. They are constantly sensing things in their freezing, icy environment. They use their super powerful noses to smell the presence of meat from literally miles away, and their eyesight to spot tiny changes in the ice. And yeah, even plants have sensitivity. They sense gravity so they know to grow their roots downward, and they sense light to grow their leaves up toward the sun. Our fourth pillar on the checklist is movement. Pretty simply, this means living organisms are capable of changing the shape and position of their bodies. Now, animals are the obvious examples here, right? Our polar bear family is actively walking, swimming, and hunting across the Arctic ice. But again, don't count out our green friends. Plants move too. It happens a lot slower for sure, but a flower turning its petals to track the sun across the sky during the day, that is a textbook example of movement. Pillar number 5 is growth. This one's pretty intuitive. All living things start out smaller and naturally have the ability to grow and increase in size over time, like how a tiny acorn eventually becomes a massive oak tree or a baby infant grows into a full-sized adult human. Building right on that idea of generations, the 6th pillar is reproduction. This is an organism's ability to produce young, creating more of their own specific kind. Think about it. Without this pillar, a species would just vanish from the earth after a single generation. No more polar bears, no more oak trees. This beautiful family unit perfectly shows growth and reproduction in action. The adult bears reproduced to create those small cubs. And those cubs are actively demonstrating our previous pillar, growth. As they eat and respire, they'll eventually increase in size to match their parents. It's the circle of life, captured perfectly by these 2 scientific pillars. Okay, our 7th and final pillar is excretion. Look, when you take a nutrition and break it down for energy through respiration, there's gonna be leftovers, byproducts that the body just doesn't need, and that could actually be toxic if they built up. Excretion is the completely necessary process of getting rid of those waste substances. A really simple example: every time animals breathe out, they are excreting carbon dioxide waste right into the air. All right, let's put this into practice with a quick case study. Is a car alive? Okay, investigators, time for the ultimate challenge. We're testing a really tricky suspect. Look closely at this shiny red car. If an alien came to Earth, they might honestly think cars are the dominant life form. I mean, think about it. A car takes in fuel and oxygen. Inside the engine, it uses that fuel to move down the highway. It produces exhaust waste, like carbon dioxide, out the tailpipe. And modern cars? They even have sensors to turn the headlights on automatically when it gets dark. Let's compare these traits, because it builds a surprisingly confusing case. A car mimics nutrition by taking in gas. It mimics respiration with its combustion engine. It mimics excretion by puffing out exhaust. And it clearly mimics sensitivity with those automatic lights. Plus, it definitely moves. You guys, that's 5 out of the 7 pillars. Could this machine actually be alive? Well, the verdict is in. Absolutely not. Our vigorous investigation proves it is not an organism. Why? Because you must have all 7 pillars. A car cannot grow in size over time. A small car doesn't naturally grow into a bus. A car definitely can't reproduce to make baby cars. And crucially, its energy release happens in a metal engine, not inside living biological cells. Boom. Case closed. Awesome job. Now for a quick quiz to test your knowledge. You solved the mystery of the car, so let's lock in your new science vocabulary with 3 rapid-fire questions. Question 1. Think back to our polar bear eating a heavy meal of meat, or that plant quietly making its own food from the sun. What is the official pillar, the word, for taking in food? I'll give you a second. Got it? The word is nutrition. Great job. Let's hit question 2. When those cute little polar bear cubs pack on the pounds and increase their size over the months and years, which of the 7 pillars are they actively demonstrating? Yep, you guessed it. That's growth. And finally, question 3. This is the tricky one. What is the specific scientific process called where food is broken down inside the cells to give an organism energy? Remember, it is not breathing. If you said respiration, you completely nailed it. You are officially a master life investigator. This brings us to the end of our explainer, but honestly, your investigation is just beginning. I challenge you, look around your room right now. Pick an object, a houseplant, your dog, your computer, or even yourself, and run it through the 7-pillar test. Nutrition, respiration, sensitivity, movement, growth, reproduction, and excretion. It kind of makes you wonder, right? As technology gets more and more advanced, will human beings ever build a machine that actually ticks all 7 boxes? Keep investigating, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.